I decided to carry out a simple hypergamy experiment to attempt to uncover the truth about hypergamy. Is it real? After all, if you take a tour for an hour or so on the so-called red pill YouTube channels, or some of the more well-known manosphere sites, you'd be forgiven for thinking that women are treacherous, fickle creatures who always monkey branch, constantly on the lookout for the best possible man. Furthermore, you might also hear that women nowadays have unrealistic standards. They want a man over 6'3", with a 9-inch penis, a high-status job and a bank balance in the millions. The average guy will simply never get a look in. So what is the truth about hypergamy? Now, the experiment was very simple. I walked around Warsaw in Poland for about an hour on Tuesday, August the 13th, 2019, and attempted to discover and capture on camera a representative sample of male and female couples to deduce 3 factors. Was there a large disparity between their looks levels? Now, if hypergamy is real, surely the majority of men would be much better looking than the women. Did it appear, factor 2, did it appear that the man was always much higher status than the woman? Putting looks to one side, the other argument, or the other symptom, if you like, of hypergamy is that women, and particularly young women at the peak of their SMV, will gravitate towards high status men with resources and status. Did this appear to be true? And number 3, it's very hard to measure, objectively of course, but did these couples actually seem happy? Did there appear to be a balance? Now, there is of course a big caveat to this hypergamy experiment, and that is, I can hear the naysayers already saying that I filmed this in Warsaw in Poland and try it in London or New York. Now, this is kind of a valid point, and it does bring up some other questions of what drives influence on hypergamy. Now, I'll go through this later on, so keep watching, but the bottom line is, although there is some influence, the natural human instinct is strong, and I'd venture a guess I could carry out the same experiment at London, Rio de Janeiro, Los Angeles or wherever, and the result would be pretty much the same. The other point I would make is that Poland is unquestionably a functioning, healthy society. It does not suffer from the same ills that face countries like the USA, the UK, and to an extent China. The politicians care about the local populace, and there is a sense of camaraderie amongst people, that they feel like part of a greater whole. When you walk around Poland, you cannot help but feel that it follows the natural order of things. The results you will see reflect that. So let's talk about the hypergamy experiment results. Here are some of the samples with the match or mismatch rating. Was I correct? You be the judge. And when I carried out the experiment, the vast majority of couples I saw were close to looks matched. And I'd also note that they were also close to age matched. So especially the younger couples, the girl and the guy, were about the same sort of age. Now, as I mentioned before, this is a sign of a healthy, functioning society. I'd be willing to bet in years to come that these couples are still together and happily producing babies. According to the experts in the manosphere on red pill YouTube channels, you would see these prime young women with higher status men rather than these normal young men. We begin to see the unravelling of the hypergamy narrative. On another video, I talked about the divorce rate in various countries around the world. Please note the oft-touted figure of 50% of marriages ending in divorce is cherry-picked from the data and designed to reinforce the narrative. If you adjust for religion, ethnicity, education level and age, you find that the percentage almost halves. Look it up for yourselves if you want to see the data and if you don't believe me. From recollection, the lowest probability of divorce is to marry a Christian, college-aged Asian woman. So in conclusion, I do not agree with the manosphere, the red pill, or the black pill luminaries that hypergamy is as rampant as they advocate. I think there are a number of factors at play here. And number one is the theorists themselves. I question the real-world experience of these self-appointed experts. I've learned over the years to quickly size up a guy and his previous experience with women, and the majority of them do not strike me as confident, self-assured men who are, or ever have been, successful with women. I suspect their objectivity is coloured by their worldview and their insecurity about their position in the sexual marketplace. Fundamentally, I suspect that they do not trust or generally actually love women. Because a lot of these guys are highly intelligent, they construct a narrative and worldview which sounds convincing and is catnip to the legions of bitter, black-pilled men who lap up this corrosive narrative. There is a large market for so-called red pill or black pill knowledge. It gives a certain kind of guy a feeling of satisfaction and perhaps superiority to thumb their noses at normal men because they have access to these higher truths that normies are not part of. It's attractive to them to feel part of a group with superior knowledge that allows them to sit in judgment over the majority of the population, like the young men I have shown here, who are quietly going about their lives and are observably happy in doing so. The other bracket of theorists are guys who have gone out in the real world and attempted to fornicate in great numbers with young attractive women and largely been unsuccessful. Rather than look in the mirror and look to themselves, they instead construct a narrative that female nature is to blame. Overall, be skeptical about who you listen to. Do they have credibility? What is their real world experience? And generally, do they strike you as men who have been successful with women? Or are they insecure and generally disposed to whining and moaning? Now, the second order effect also is the effect of the welfare state, religiosity and female empowerment. So a country like Poland has less of a welfare state than, say, the UK or the USA. 94.3% of the population is considered Christian, and I'd estimate that a higher proportion of those are practicing Christians, versus 59.3% in the United Kingdom and 71% in the United States. Feminism and LGBT is less of a thing in Poland too. Overall, it remains more of a traditional, patriarchal society than that in the UK and swathes of the United States. This certainly will have an influence too. People generally, and girls especially, are malleable and respond to incentives. Take away the temptation to become a single mother and pop out children for welfare checks, introduce a religious upbringing, and young women seem less likely to be constantly on the lookout for stimulation and less prone to monkey branch. So in conclusion, is hypergamy simply female nature? Now, everyone naturally wants the best genes to be passed on to their children. Everyone, men and women, want the best possible partner to spend their lives with and raise children. However, I'd say that the rampant, sick hypergamy does not represent reality. Specifically, I refer to the representation of young women as being wholly self-interested, emotionally detached, emotionally vacuous too, status-seeking, untrustworthy, constantly looking to upgrade, with an insatiable desire for a constantly better man. It's a skewed narrative based on the author's prejudice, in turn based on their insecurity about their SMV and lack of real-world experience with young attractive women, in my opinion. Fundamentally, it's a bitter, unrealistic worldview and narrative. It might be more true in certain parts of the world with a set of conditions that have led to a degenerative, ever-degrading culture that we see in the UK and the USA. But does that mean that it's in the girl's DNA to follow the breed of rampant hypergamy as espoused by red pill thinkers? I think not. To the extent that it is true, it's based on a slice of the female population that are responding to incentives, such as having access to government resources and thus no longer needing a man that they can keep around for the long term that will help them to raise children. Putting all of that to one side, the age-old wisdom of choosing your partner carefully applies, and the facts do not lie. When you adjust for education level, ethnicity and religiosity, you find that divorce statistics drop dramatically, despite what the MGTOW guys say. So what can you do about this? The first thing you can do is to think for yourself. Be skeptical about who you listen to and question their experience, mindset and worldview. Do they strike you as men who have been at any point successful with women? Or is there some bitterness that is skewing their worldview? Secondly, test all this out for yourselves. If you're not in a relationship and you're not approaching women, note approaching women, not using Tinder or online dating sites where the ratios are skewed, approaching, then you're not dealing with reality. You're more susceptible to black pill and negative thinking. Thirdly, I have a bunch of resources available, including books, video courses, free video courses on approaching and attracting women. In fact, most of my time is spent in teaching how you can become more attractive to women. I can tell you the large part of success is based on your mindset. Even if the species of beastly hypergamy as touted by the red pill guys was true, which it isn't, it won't help you when you approach that 24-year-old hottie walking around your local supermarket. Seek out information and advice that empowers and is true rather than enervates you. Become the best man you can be, and you're much less likely to be susceptible to manosphere garbage, and much more likely to get the results with women that you want. Hope this helps, and check out the links in the description below for the kind of information that can help you.